Patricia Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I too would like to add my thanks to the Honourable Lady from East Kilbride, Straven and Lesmahago, and I think I'm the first person to pronounce that correctly.
Very good. You can stay.
But I'm very pleased to once again today participate in a debate about autism, a condition that we all know for too long, for too many years, has not been sufficiently recognised and its challenges fully appreciated. And that is starting to change, which is good news for all of those who are living with autism and for too long have been either not recognised or misunderstood. We know that autism is not a mental health condition, but we also know that autistic people are more likely to develop mental health problems such as anxiety disorders, OCD and depression. And of course this is for a whole host of reasons, such as not being supported, social isolation, and research shows that a diagnosis of autism can lead to an increased risk of mental health conditions. Support for those living with autism is of course very important, and it's been widely recognised in the Chamber this afternoon. Indeed, anxiety disorders are very common amongst those on the autism spectrum. Roughly 40% have symptoms of at least one anxiety disorder at any one time, compared with around 15% in the general population, and such disorders in themselves can lead to depression. It's very worrying that young people living with autism are 28 times more likely to consider suicide than other young people, and this affects adults too who have not been diagnosed. There is no doubt that people with this condition have an increased risk of suicide, as the Honourable Lady from East Kilbride, Straven and Lesmahago pointed out. This could well be because 66% of autistic people and 67% of their families have reported feeling socially isolated, and 70% of autistic people... I will indeed.
This Honourable Lady recognises another major problem with families of autistic children, which is that should one of their children take their own life, the post-vention support, the after-suicide support is also not there. So the social isolation they had in life continues after death and increases the complications of their grief. And this is an area that too must be tackled.
I absolutely agree with the excellent point the Honourable Lady has made. It's important that should such a tragedy occur and a suicide take place, that the families are supported through that as much as possible. 70% of autistic people are reported to have mental health disorders such as anxiety or depression, and suicide, as we've heard, is one of the leading causes of death in the autism community, and that alone tells us that this issue demands our attention. Diagnosis, as the Honourable Lady for Bladen pointed out, is important because with diagnosis should be the foundation upon which effective support for autistic individuals and their families can be built. Similarly, a delay in diagnosis can prevent or hinder effective support and intervention strategies being put in place. The National Autistic Society in Scotland reported that in 2013, 61% of those they surveyed said they felt relieved when they received a diagnosis, because such a diagnosis can end years of feeling misunderstood and isolated. I think it's important today that I do mention, because we've talked a lot about this as a UK issue, but as a Scottish MP, I do want to mention the Scottish Government's strategy for autism, which is working to improve waiting times for diagnosis and assessment, to create consistent service standards across Scotland based upon research and providing training opportunities. The entire autism spectrum needs to be addressed, and as well as the whole lifespan of people living with autism in Scotland. This is the logic behind this autism strategy, so it's a very positive step. And we've heard today about initiatives such as autism hours in supermarkets and special cinematic screenings which are autism friendly. And these are all very important and positive steps. There is greater awareness and understanding of autism out there, but we know, I think, and today we recognise we still have a long way to go. But I would just end, Madam Deputy Speaker, by saying we often think of those with autism as having difficulty seeing the world as we see it. But the truth is that we need to see the world as they see it, because maybe then we can start make real progress.
Mm-hmm.